Hey everybody, I'm back with a new movie review, and today I'll be covering the Miyazaki film, Studio Ghibli film, Howl's Moving Castle. I've been on like a Studio Ghibli kind of kick in the past year, and I want to like try to get through them all at some point. Maybe try to get at least a couple of them through January, since I reserved that month for a good bunch of animated films. Because a lot of people already kind of grew up with a lot of Studio Ghibli stuff, and I've seen it made like a couple of them, you know, in my younger years, but didn't have like a good like appreciation until like as I got older, and it's like, my palette for film became a little bit more sophisticated. And I was like, I want to revisit these films because there's more to it than I gave it credit when I was a little younger. And House Movie Castle, because I've seen images of that, and I'm was just so fascinated by that and wanted to watch the entire film to actually see, uh, the context of everything. So now I want to kind of talk about it. Before I continue, please like this video, leave a comment below, let me know what you guys think of Howl's Moving Castle, and what is your favorite Studio Ghibli film. So, this is directed by Hayao Miyazaki, based on the novel written by Diana Wynne Jones. It was originally like pitched to Toei Animation, but they rejected it. So Miyazaki, took it upon himself. It did pretty well. It had like a budget of $24 million and raked in the box office at $236 million. Didn't even realize until I was watching it. It was like 2 hours long. My goodness. The character of Sophie, the younger Sophie, voiced by Emily Mortimer, older Sophie, Jean Simmons. Howl was voiced by Christian Bale, which was a shocker to me. Witch of the Waste, voiced by Lauren Bacall. Calcifer, voiced by Billy Crystal. Marco, voiced by Josh Hutcherson. Solomon, voiced by Blythe Danner. Letty, voiced by Gina Malone. Honey, voiced by Mary Devon. Prince Justin, voiced by Crispin Freeman. King of Ingari, voiced by Mark Silverman. And the dog Hein, voiced by D. Bradley Baker. And there's some themes to the Iraq War to this, because this came out a year after like the war in Iraq really was at its peak. And of course, Miyazaki being like a pacifist, he was vehemently against the Iraq War, and he wanted to center the story around like war between two kingdoms. We are introduced to Sophie, who is a millionaire who designs and manufactures and sale of hats and headwear, in case you don't know. And on our way out to visit her sister, she is accosted by some soldiers who was getting kind of fresh with her, and then she is Howl intervenes to keep those guys from getting crossing the line. And of course, in this world, magic is kind of accepted. And of course, Howl is like a well-known figure here, where girls fawn over him and see his moving castle on the horizon. It's like, oh my God, it's Howl! Oh my God, he's just so cute! And it's like, that type of vibe. And uh, of course, these kingdoms employ witches and wizards in their employ. Like I said, it's just kind of like some things is just accepted, which is par for the course to some Miyazaki films like Kiki's Delivery Service. It's just like apparently a well-known thing that young witches go out on their own like a freaking Pokemon journey and train and harness their skills in a city. Uh, Hal, of course, saved her from these, you know, faceless glob monsters who assume that she's associated with Hal in some kind of way. So he saves her and leaves. But later that night, she is visited by the Witch of the Wasteland, who put a curse on Sophie to turn her into a 90-year-old woman in hopes for her to, because she is the person who sent out those these shadow henchmen, and clearly they gave, put out word that she was with Hal. She's looking for Hal for a particular reason, and she believes that Sophie knows something, but it's just not being forthcoming. So she put a curse on her, hoping that she will track down Hal in order to get that curse lifted, because he is like a famed magician. However, there's some issues with I have with this movie. The first one being in this moment is the fact that how long it took before she capitalized off of utilizing Sophie, because she's clearly after Hal, and it's like she doesn't show back up until like darn near an hour in. Anywho, she turns Sophie into a 90-year-old woman, which, by the way, the animation, of course, is amazing, and the quick transition, because for some reason nobody point out that Sophie, while sleeping at night, maybe it's because she's calm or something, I'm not sure, it never explained this. She is normal when she's like fully rested and when she's just getting up, but she at no point goes to a mirror to check her face and notice that she's young, or even look at her hands that notice it's not wrinkled anymore. It's just like, how is this you not picking up this stuff? You just kind of gloss over it, and it kind of makes Sophie look like a dunderhead. That part it's like, even for an animated film, because this movie makes some really good writing decisions, this one being like a grave miscalculation, or at least don't provide any type of reasonable explanation as to why Sophie don't take notice that her hands are a little bit more taut and not wrinkly, and she don't run to a mirror and notice. But when they do quick changes of her old look back into her young look, it's almost seamless. I gotta commend them for that, the animators for that, because that looks so good. She ends up going out to the countryside to find the movie castle, to find Hal, because He's the only one that she knows that could probably lift the curse. She ends up running into this living scarecrow she named Turnip Head, who leads her to the moving castle where she, you know, stowaways on, and meets Calcifer, a living flame that's powering this castle, who's like a demon that made a deal with Howl, but he doesn't want to be like a glorified battery anymore, and he knows that Sophie got a curse put on her, and he, you know, has like, you know, a capability to lift that curse, but he wants a deal from her. Uh, and but like the deal she struck, they took a long time to actually. I don't know, when somebody make a deal, it's kind of like a thing that you want to do right away, and it seems to drag that part out. She meets with Mikkel, who is a young apprentice to Howl, which I love the magic disguise that he puts on. He puts on a hoodie and he just forms like a bushy beard, and it's kind of, like I said, very seamless. I really like that that transformation. It was very well done. Um. So, and this is another thing. I get there's a curse that she can't. Part of the curse she can't explain exactly what happened. But I don't know. Did you try to write it down? I don't know. There's certain decisions they have Sophie make that doesn't make any sense to me, at least. I don't know. Maybe because the other Ghibli films, there was like Kiki's Delivery Service. There was like smarter writing involved. I know it's based off of books, so it might be different in some cases with the book, and they have to make some negotiations with certain plot or written text that wouldn't translate into film. I'm not sure, but this is, you know, God, I'm not feeling certain things with Sophie, at least. So she decides to take it upon herself to become Howl's cleaning lady, and it's like, lady, your curse is like, I think that takes more precedent. You can at the very least tell him like, I am cursed. If the flame can tell you got a curse put on you, I know like a strong magician like Howl can easily see that and want to do something about that immediately, or at the very least set up something where it's like Howl's like, okay, I can lift the curse, but it requires some, you know, ingredients for this potion that I gotta collect, so it's gonna take a minute, and in between that time she can decide to Snow White this thing and, you know, clean up the castle in the meantime, as, you know, thanks, and giving her like a, you know, like a trade, like, okay, you give me some free room and board, the very least I can do is clean up, kind of thing. That would have been like a good, easy written way for it to make this make sense as to why it's taking so long to kind of get on it. Because if you curse to appear as your elder years when you're not, there's some sense of urgency here. I don't know. That part was kind of weird to me. In the midst of all of this, there's two kingdoms that's in the midst of war. One of the reasons being that one of the kingdom's princes is going missing, so that's kind of like kind of sparked this one believes that the other has something to do with it. Uh, and of course, one kingdom's employing like magicians to fight. Or at least we only see three in this entire film. Howl, Witch of the Wasteland, and their mentor Solomon, who is like a sorceress. Howl is summoned to meet up with the king that the sorcerer is working for, but Howl, he really doesn't want to get involved, but he is kind of like duty bound to show up when called. So he sends Sophie in instead under the pretense that that's his mother. She shows up at the same time as the Witch of the Wasteland, who, upon entering the borders, or at least the grounds of the castle, where there's like a spell that breaks any kind of, magic that's, being utilized. But I'm thinking, okay, because the little shadow henchman completely disappear, and the Witch of the Wasteland is slowly showing her true elder years, because she's kind of like using magic to keep herself relatively young, but she still kind of look old. I mean, you can make yourself look like anything if you had that kind of power. You can make yourself young and attractive and thin. And of course, Sophie should be looking like her younger self, because there's like apparently a cutoff, or the magic being used is kind of neutralized. And of course, coincidentally, Witch of the Wasteland only knows how to put on curses. She doesn't know how to get rid of them. And it's like, well, that's convenient. So they make their way up these long, ridiculous steps that is completely pointless, but it adds to the comedy. They enter this room where there's only one single chair, and of course, the witch sits down in the chair because she is way older than Sophie. But it was clearly a trap, as the dog that Hind that Sophie assumes it was Howl in disguise, try to watch her back, carries the sucker inside, follow it into a separate room, while the magic is removed from the Witch of the Wasteland, look like sitting in a chair surrounded by giant neuralizers. Solomon meets up with Sophie, who stands up for Howl after Solomon kind of keeps putting him down. And through this kind of courageous, moment, she, slowly reverts to her younger form, but still with gray hair for some reason. Howl then shows up under the disguise as like one of the generals, and Solomon tries to capture and force Howl to transform into a bird, but he resists and escapes with Sophie, Hind, and the witch. Which, by the way, it makes no sense, like, because I get it, like, this movie, Miyazaki didn't want a true villain or true heroes. Everything and everybody is like morally, gray. Some people are good, but they do some not bad, but maybe things that doesn't jive well with you morally, or you wouldn't make those kind of decisions. But it still, though, this woman put a curse on a innocent girl, and you're bringing her along. It's like, you don't have to leave her there, but she's tagging along with the rest of the group, and I don't feel like that is earned at all. I don't know. It's just like I think this movie is more so the spectacle and the journey of it all. At least in its totality, it was like a good time. But when you really, maybe just me, but when you're dissecting this stuff, there are things about it that I'm not feeling that I thought I was. I don't know. I thought I was getting another key delivery service kind of vibe. I don't know. Uh, but it's just like, man, this is. I don't know. This is, even though this did well, maybe it's just my taste, but there's something about this. I was, you know, in the details, I'm not feeling it. Overall, it's fine. It's like at least I'm glad I watched it. It's not horrible, but it's just certain writing narratives I'm just not vibing with, or certain character decisions I'm not vibing with at all, because it seems like it's forced to be held off for no apparent reason, or just completely forgotten for no apparent reason, or there's no sense of urgency like it would normally be for no apparent reason. So they make their way back to the moving castle, and of course, every time Hal goes out to fight, he ends up transforming into his bird so he can sabotage and fight off both kingdoms' aircrafts. But every time you do a transformation, it makes it harder for him to revert back to human. Oh, and also, my biggest highlight is the castle itself. He calls Howl's Moving Castle. That castle, uh, like like Gotham City, has to be its own entity, and I love the design of it. I love it how it, walks on giant robotic chicken legs. It's rusty, and it's just got like a unique design. And of course, on the inside, it's also very unique. It even has, like, if you watch the first Doctor Strange film, and I'm not even sure even this film did it first, but this one definitely did it way before Doctor Strange, where you got a doorway with a knob where you can twist to a certain color and it teleports you to a vacant spot somewhere in a city that you're going to, so you can do business like it's like a regular shop. I really like that. So of course that moving castle has to be its own entity, and it has to also look good. It just, that part was my highlight. And of course, I love Howl uh, and the kid. I think those three are like my biggest highlight of this entire film. Of course, over time, Sophie is becoming infatuated with Howl. I can see why, but part of me feel like, okay, did this earn that? So you guys talked, but most of the time you was like an elderly woman, and it would have helped if Hal, through magical means, knew this was the same woman he helped out earlier, just now cursed to look old. And it's like, you don't do anything about this. But the war is, ramping up. Both sides are getting bombed. Uh, uh, Sophie's, even including Sophie's home and place of business. But uh, 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 the witch realizes the flame, the living flame contains Hal's heart, which is what she was looking for. And she grabbed that sucker, burning herself alive, and Sophie has to douse her, and including Calcifer, to prevent her from burning to death. But now he's weakened, and that house is falling apart. So, making their way to the countryside, they all escape, and because Calcifer is removed from the castle, the whole entire place starts collapsing. Um, uh, uh, they try to keep feeding Calcifer wood to keep him burning, and whatever functional parts of the castle is left, that's what's like moving about. But they end up getting attacked and separated. Sophie finds this doorway to the past where we see a young Howl find this shooting star which contains Calcifer, swallows it, and gives his heart to him, and that's where this whole entire dynamic between those two got started. She ends up falling back to the present and finds a giant bird, Howl, get him to his senses, and fly, and has him fly them back with the others, where she gives back his heart, releasing Calcifer, who decides to stick around, and the Scarecrow saves him from collapsing to the rocky ground, the jagged ground below. She kisses Turnip Head, and turns out that was a curse put upon the king. Never explain who cursed him. Now I think about it, I might have missed something here, but that's where the missing prince is this whole entire time. But in a unique thing, he was infatuated with Sophie, but come to realize and accept the fact that she was more infatuated with Howl, who survived. And they reestablished the castle, which is now like a flying castle. And after witnessing like the return of the prince, who's going back to stop his kingdom from more atrocities, she decides to tell her own respective kingdom, okay, we'll decide to end this, and that was pretty much how I was moving castle. Yeah, I'm not feeling it. I know it did well, but it's just like, I know the things about the war and how it is a pointless fight, and it's just like, man, I wish I was looking forward to this, and I think I was like, oh man, Studio Ghibli, I don't think he really misses, Miyazaki really misses with his works, but this is not his personal work. This is like something he kind of adapted and put a spin on based off a book. So maybe that's why, because something directly from him that he solely created, it's all like, I don't know, it's just something strangely unique, and it's always do well. This does well too, but it's just, I don't know, this is my personal taste. This really, the Studio Ghibli stuff that I've seen prior to this doesn't hold up a candle to them, just narrative wise. That's just me. You can leave a comment below, let me know what you guys think. I might be off base here, but man, I want to like this, and I kind of feel like I'm forcing myself to like this. It's just kind of like, man, it's not hidden. It's just not hidden for me. I'm sorry, it is. I really do want to like it, but my brain and my heart is just like in sync on this one. It's like, yeah, it's not feeling it, dog. But anyway, I will see you guys in a little bit, because this is not like technically not part of the whole November theme month that I got going on, because given it's like a Thanksgiving month kind of thing, I typically want to stick to food related films, family related films, a movie about family, and Native American type of films. Howl's Moving Castle is something I just really wanted to see and really wanted to talk about, because it's been on my mind for a good week and a half. So I just want to kind of like, I just do it. I don't want to wait till January to actually talk about it. But the next movie I want to review, which is part of the whole Thanksgiving November month, is The Founder. kind of like a biopic documentary thing based off the guy who franchised, to be more accurate, not created, but franchised McDonald's as we know it, starring Michael Keaton. So look forward to that in a little bit, and I will see you all soon. Peace.